It always starts with a spark you mistake for recognition. She looks at you, and for a second, you think it's you. She sees, but it's not. It never is. It's an echo of what you could become, a reflection of the potential she imagines, not the man you are, but the role she hopes you'll grow into. That look, it isn't admiration, it's calculation, a scan. You sense warmth in her attention, but buried underneath is a silent checklist. You believe you're being chosen. In truth, you're being recruited for a part in a film she's been directing her entire life. But you're not the protagonist. You're the placeholder. Carl Jung didn't speak in sweet nothings. He dissected the soul like a surgeon, wielding a scalpel of insight. And what he discovered about women? It wasn't a fantasy. It was a mirror few dared to look into. According to Jung, what women often fall in love with is not a person. It's an image, a projection, an internal story they cast outward. You think you're being seen, but you're being fitted into a dream. And when you stop fitting the script, you're swapped out. Quietly, without warning. And you never even got the script. Jung named this hidden projection the animus, the inner masculine figure dwelling in every woman's unconscious. It's not just a psychological idea, it's a force. It speaks with certainty, authority, even morality. And when it's undeveloped, when it's not confronted or understood, it takes over. An immature animus doesn't guide a woman, it possesses her. Suddenly her expectations aren't based on reality. They're shaped by a phantom. She's not interacting with you anymore. She's interacting with the male ideal locked in her psyche. And if you deviate from that ideal, you become the enemy of her unconscious mind. You thought you were chosen for who you are. Number. You were recruited to be her reflection, to wear the mask of the man she imagined. And when that mask no longer fits, she doesn't question the story. She replaces the actor. You start to feel it, the shift. Conversations become confusing. Affection turns mechanical. Her gaze begins to glaze, as though you're fading right in front of her. You think, did I do something wrong? No. You did something fatal. You stopped being her illusion. Jung warned, women often project their inner world onto men without realizing it. They assign him the role of savior, warrior, father, guide, all the archetypes she's never consciously met inside herself. And the moment he stops acting accordingly, the spell breaks. You become unfamiliar, not because you changed, but because the fantasy couldn't hold. And the most dangerous part, she won't even know this is happening. To her, it will feel like you changed, like you disappointed her. But the only thing you did was stop performing in her myth. Jung offered a way out of this psychological theater, a brutal, solitary path. Individuation. This isn't self-improvement. It's not becoming better. It's becoming real. Most men never start. Why? Because they've been trained to chase significance through approval, conditioned to believe that being loved makes them worthy, that being chosen confirms they are enough. But Jung saw through that illusion. He taught that a man who hasn't confronted his own unconscious will always live as someone else's puppet. He'll shapeshift to be liked. He'll adapt to her moods. He'll rewrite his values just to stay in her arms. He'll call it compromise. Jung called it something else, self-betrayal. You lose yourself slowly, smiling, nodding, agreeing, until one day, you forget there ever was a version of you that didn't need to be liked. And that's when the real tragedy begins, because she will feel it too. Jung observed that in many societies, women are rarely challenged to confront their own shadows. They're taught that their feelings are truth, that their instincts are always right, that their virtue is automatic. But Jung didn't flinch from saying what others wouldn't. He declared the animus, when unexamined, the greatest psychic danger to women. This voice within her speaks not with clarity, but with false conviction, not with wisdom, but with dominance. It moralizes, it judges, and worst of all, it projects its chaos outward, onto you. She'll say you failed her, that you changed, that you stopped being the man she fell for. But what really happened? You stopped matching the character she projected from her unacknowledged inner conflict, and rather than wrestle with her own complexity, she blames you. Here's the lie you swallowed, that you could save her, that you could be different, that you could love her into healing. But what Jung taught, and what most men don't want to hear, is this. You can't save someone from a war they don't even know they're fighting. You're not her therapist, you're not her father, you're not the redemption arc in her internal screenplay. You are the mirror, and when she sees you clearly, she will either turn away or break. Your job was never to carry her soul. Your task is to carry your own. There comes a point in every man's life where he has to ask the question that shatters the illusion. Why did I let myself be chosen by someone who couldn't see me? That's where your journey begins. You weren't the victim. You were complicit. You played along. You kept wearing the mask. Because facing your own inner emptiness, your own lack of center, felt more terrifying than playing pretend. And here's where most men check out. Because now the comfort ends. Now the mirror turns inward. Jung didn't give you tips. He didn't hand you hacks. He gave you a confrontation. Sit in the silence of your own mind until the illusions dissolve. Until you no longer need her eyes to feel seen. Until the voice that says you are nothing without her finally dies. That voice, it will scream. It will beg. It will promise you love if you just stay small, predictable, agreeable. But that voice is not your soul. It's the echo of a boy who thought being needed meant being valuable. Jung whispered a more dangerous truth. The man who does not need to be desired is the man who finally becomes desirable. Not because he plays a part, but because he plays none. You don't manipulate. You don't chase. You don't bend. You stand. And from that stillness, something magnetic begins to radiate. Not performance, but presence. Not validation, but truth. And women, the ones who've walked their own fire, will feel it instantly. You'll know her not by what she says, but by what she doesn't ask you to do. She won't beg you to change. She won't seduce you with a fantasy. She won't place her broken mirror into your hands. She'll be there, eyes open, mask off, shadow in check. Not to be rescued, but to walk beside you. Not for completion, but for connection. And that connection won't be fireworks. It'll be stillness, recognition, a meeting of truths. But it is rare, because most will never reach this point. They will settle for the masquerade, for the scripts, for the lies. Because truth is expensive. Carl Jung didn't leave behind a self-help manual. He left a fire, a warning, that if a man avoids himself long enough, he will lose himself. To women, to roles, to hollow performance. He will live not as a soul, but as a character. Always waiting to be cast. Always afraid of the curtain closing. But Jung also left you a door, individuation. It's not easy, it's not fast. It doesn't reward you with applause, but it gives you back your life. You stop being the echo of a fantasy and become the author of your reality. You stop asking to be chosen and start choosing yourself, fully, honestly, unapologetically. And when you stand in that place, not as a hero, not as a savior, but as a man, something happens. You become unbuyable. You become untouchable. You become real. And the world, especially those still addicted to illusions, will hate you for it. But the few who've done the work, they will recognize you. And when they do, you won't need their praise, because you will finally have something you never had before: yourself.